Hi, this is Rick at the World Congress of Family in Sydney, Australia. Today I'm talking with Luke McCormack. And Luke, explain a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and who you represent.
I'm the Queensland President of the National Civic Council, and we're a political organisation but not a political party. And we cover a broad range of issues affecting the nation and families. And our role is to come up with a political solution or a public policy solution, and we do that by actually mobilising members. So we're sort of an activist grassroots group, not just a think tank. And I'm a father of 4 children, married for 9 years, originally hail from Melbourne down south, and happily settled into the warmer climate of Queensland.
Okay. What I'd like to do is ask you some questions. The first one is, what do you feel are the major issues that families are facing today?
The major issues that the families in Australia are facing would be the lack of community or external support for the marriage vows, so that when the marriage gets rocky or difficult, there isn't much to rely on. Even those, for example, that might attend church or a religious community frequently, even there sometimes there isn't much affirmation of the marriage vows or assistance in learning how to fulfil them.
Yes.
And in addition to that, the next challenge I see mainly would be the issue of work, paid work and time, and that's got a fair bit to do with the price of land in Australia. So in Australia we've suffered over the last 30 years a almost inexplicable rise in land price. There are lots of reasons you can sort of identify, but it has been a sort of a mix of factors, and it's got so high now that it's become almost impossible for a family to experience that natural desire to have their own property to raise the children on without having dual incomes.
Yes.
And of course we have a government now that subsidises a mother to leave her children with somebody else, and so what we're having is a ballooning, if you like, of a subsidised work which is outside the home, which is financially penalising mothers who would like to spend more time with their young children. And we've noticed this puts a lot of tension on families and marriages, causes all sorts of stress, and I see a generation of children being raised in Australia that aren't very attached to their parents.
Yes.
And so when they get to teenage life and beyond, where you really need that attachment just to finish off the parenting role, it's too late, they're not very attached.
Basically, the points you're making is that there's a division of the family due to the pressure to earn enough to be able to live and do some of the things they want to do, which separates the family because both parents are now having to work to be able to earn enough to live. And with the state-run daycare means that other people are raising their children, which separates the family even more because different values are being taught than what would be taught by the natural parents. Is that a good summary?
That's a reasonable summary, and perhaps not at the young age, perhaps not so much values that they might be getting from care outside the home, but simple like emotional attachment issues.
Okay.
So in my reading and research we've done that emotional connection with mum or with dad, at least one of those needs to be quite strong, so that you can build on that later, so that the values you transmit as they grow even older are transmittable, which is only possible through attachment. And so I think the parents in Australia will be struggling with this tension.
Yes.
And governments need to start recognising the unpaid work done in the home.
Absolutely.
So, and if you want someone to leave the home to do paid work, who's going to overtake and who's going to do the unpaid work that was being done previously?
Yes.
There's a great thinker, an English thinker, G.K. Chesterton, who often wrote about the beauty of the home and what goes on there. And I think if we in Australia could capture the beauty of the household, the home and the family that's in it, and could involve extended family, grandparents, aunties, uncles or cousins, but the beauty of what goes on there as a little sub-unit or unit of society, properly understood and respected, would go a long way to assisting the whole country forward.
Great. Now, solutions. How do we move forward so that there's a solution to some of these issues?
With the National Civic Council, we've always focused in on a political solution. And if you were relying on a political solution to fix things, you'd be disappointed.
Yes.
And so I believe it's not the solution does not begin with us. We try to capitalise on those who have already found a solution by pushing forward in public policy arena. The real solution, in my view, is a range of new ministries and movements that are assisting people with their marriage vows, assisting people before they get married, assisting parents in raising children. I've met at this World Congress many organisations that are connected or involved in this assistance with parenting techniques, tools, ideas. This sort of renewal, if you like, of parenting and marriage will be, I think, the where it all begins. So if you can strengthen more marriages and more children grow up with an intact family, then maybe in 30 years, 40 years' time, you'll see groups focused on the political public policy end having far more success. But it doesn't start with us, it sort of ends here. So I see the end of it. And I tell you what, it's going to take several more decades.
So if I understand you correctly, then what you're saying is that, let me go back to one of the issues you stated, was the commitment of parents to the marriage, plus also the family, if I was understanding you right. That's
Yes.
one of the issues.
Yes.
So one of the things you see is strengthening the family through giving them the tools and the skills to understand what their commitment and responsibilities are as parents, and helping them move the level of their family understanding of what it means to be a family to a higher level. Is that close?
That's close. I think that's spot on. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, spot on.
Good. The last question is the future of families. Now, you sort of answered that in that you said 30, 40 years down the road is when we can see the effect of what's happening, because that goes through the children that are being brought into the world and being raised now. So how do you see that?
Well, what I see now is, if you like, a bit like a financially ballooned marketplace that has to pop at some point. The medication we're on now at a national level and at a global level when it comes to the welfare state mopping up and assisting the breakdown of family and its consequences, what that does in terms of the churn of services and welfare and fine taxes and payments is create a unsustainable balloon that has to burst.
Yes.
Now, so that's going to get difficult. I'm sure I will see that in my lifetime. So what I imagine is the future is, firstly, at the grassroots level, and this is already happening because the children of divorce are often the ones running the various ministries trying to assist people now with their marriages because they know how painful divorce is.
Yes.
So what they're doing now will be the beginning. You'll see the state, various levels of government burst because they can't handle the payments. And then perhaps then within several decades you might start to see a change of thinking in public policy. For example, in Australia 30 odd years ago we had the beginning of what's called no-fault divorce. Well, we'd like to see a change with that right now, but I think it's probably 30 years away. But I imagine we're going to have to go through this cycle to get there eventually. In the meantime, there's other obvious external challenges on the future of the family, people who would like to redefine it. And the revisionists, if you like, for marriage and family want to disrupt the biological connection. So disregard biology when it comes to coupling and sexual intimacy, disregard biology when it comes to parenting. Interestingly, at the very same time, more science is showing the amazing level of integration, biological integration, in the intact biological family.
Yes.
Both the way a biological parent is naturally more able to parent their offspring, the way offspring are connected to their parents. And so this is flying in the face of the current revisionists campaign to redefine family. Interestingly, in Australia and elsewhere, the children of donor conception and the children who have been removed from their biological parents either through good or bad policy are old enough now to speak up about it, and they give submissions to our government inquiries, and sometimes there's even government apologies for what took place. But the point is, the connection between a child and their biological parents is so deep that we've always known it, and so the revisionists will never really succeed with their task to break that up, because nature and biology will come back to confront them in the face time and time again.
Great.
So I've got a lot of hope, and I see I've got the greatest admiration for groups that get involved at the grassroots level to help very practically to understand the importance of keeping the marriage together, what the vow means, and how to raise children by attaching yourself to them and providing time to be with them. And so that I'm inspired by them and hoping that one day their children will come and help us change public policy when they're older.
And I guess that's the vision I see, is that the things that we're doing now with our families, and if we can provide that warm, supportive environment for our children, and there's more and more families doing that, and then they get together, that will come from that warm, supportive environment, what else could happen? Because they have that step forward. Where could they go with the improvement of family?
Well, look, they're off to a great start, because they will pursue public policy that allows families to do what families should do.
Yes.
And families at one level, as far as the government's concerned, are the most efficient providers of social services.
Yes.
Because it's done without pay or fee or charge, it's done with motivation, done with sensitivity, and privately. What I've discovered is the people pushing the most destructive social policies often come from an inadequate and poor experience of family.
Yes.
Then, with apparently good intention, they try to fix the problem without wisdom and create a bigger problem.
Yes.
And so we need more children from happy homes in Parliament, as representatives.
Okay. Thank you very much for talking with me, Luke.
Pleasure. Rick?
It's been great.
All the best with your ministry.
Thank you.